Hello and welcome to Autism Behavior Services. I'm Chloe, and I want to introduce you to our guest today, Martin Lombrano, who will be sharing with us the fundamentals of knowing how to protect financial assets and set up a financial strategy for your family. Financial planning takes on additional importance when planning for a child with special needs. We will discuss topics such as how to fund a special needs trust, savings accounts, investments, and additional resources for your family. These tools will help your family with the fundamentals to navigate the financial system.
We describe ourselves as comprehensive wealth advisors. Big fancy term, but I kind of like to think of it as your financial Google map. We provide care, guidance, and course corrections to manage their financial affairs with purpose, for the purpose for their family, their heirs. We've been doing it for 30 years, so we know a lot of what to look out for. We know a lot of the questions to ask, and really two questions are always on our mind. Will the client be okay? Will you be okay? And what's missing? Knowing some of the terms, right? And starting with the basics of like budgeting, for example. Knowing where your money is coming in from, where it's going out. And so when you know that, you can start to decide where do you want your money to go. And the building blocks on that are, 6 or 7 different building blocks. Budget, number 1. Number 2 is save $1,000. I know that might sound, kind of simple, but a lot of people don't have $1,000 in savings. After that, you go for 3 to 6 months of emergency funds, just in case something really bad does happen in your financial situation. And then after that, it's retiring debt, saving for retirement, real estate, maybe home purchase, and then what we call ultimately giving back. We always take a both-and approach. It doesn't have to be either or. And so, yes, getting out of debt is a priority. Saving money is a priority. So to the extent that you can do both, even if it's a little of both, that's okay. But I would probably err towards or be more biased towards getting rid of debt. We call it the debt snowball, and that is borrowed from another course that we work with, where you take your smallest debt and you retire that first. And then you work on to the next smallest debt and so forth. So that at the end of the day, you've got your debt retired. It might take you 12, 18, 36 months. But again, you start small and you just keep chunking away at that, eating away at that debt, and it will be gone. Well, everybody wants that great family vacation, and nothing wrong with that when the finances allow for it. But just thinking about it, you can have a great time as a family anywhere. Just the small things can be really huge and impactful. And it's not until later we hear from our kids now how impactful that was. Yeah, the great, international vacations are wonderful, great memories. Just as valid is the ones that are much more simple and close to home. So what we look at are buckets, if you will, 3-bucket strategy. You want to have a bucket of cash, you want to have a bucket of conservative or risk-off assets, and you have to have a bucket of growth or risk-on assets. And you want to make sure you have the right money in the right buckets. You don't want to be taking money that should be set aside for savings and put it into the markets, because that will really not work out well for anybody. So if you have the proper money in the proper bucket, then the timing of the market, whether it's high, whether it's low, it takes on less importance. Oh, many employees have 401ks. Individuals have different types of IRAs. One of the ones we love is the Roth IRA. You do forego the current tax deduction that you put money into a Roth, but that money grows tax-free. And in our way of thinking, there's nothing more valuable than tax-free money in retirement. So life insurance comes in a couple of different flavors, if you will. Two basic flavors or kinds are term life and what we call cash value life. Cash value life can be whole life, universal life, variable life. It builds a cash value, it builds equity within the policy. Think of it as owning a home. Term life is basically you're renting the life insurance for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. It's like renting a home. And so there's reasons to use both. And typically for shorter terms, you want to use probably the term life. If you only need life insurance for 5 or 10 years, hey, then term life may be the way to go. If you need it for a longer term, longer length, then maybe the cash value is the way to go. It could be. I am not an attorney, so always consult with a specialist in special needs trusts. But a conservatorship might be. It really just depends on the particular situation. We always think about an independent professional trustee, though, for those types of trusts to ensure that there'll always be somebody to be able to run the trust effectively. So banks come in a lot of different flavors, types, if you will, and they can be, credit unions, they can be your typical retail bank, but they're all set up to have deposits on hand, pay you an interest rate for the money that you put into them, and then they also have to have an ability to lend that money out. And that's how they become and stay profitable. So essentially they're a place where you can deposit money. They'll pay you currently a small amount of money that have it there as in interest. And then they want to lend that money out so that they can receive interest back. You can do a regular passbook savings account. Not going to pay you very much, very liquid. You can step it up to like a money market account, which might pay you a few cents more. And then you can go into a CD, certificate of deposit, where you'll lock your money up for 6 or 12 or longer months. And for locking it up, you do get a bigger interest rate as well. Savings accounts, very low. I would, maybe $100, maybe even less. I always like to say you definitely want to have savings first. It's just like for an adult, savings first, and then you move into investments. So what stock is, it's a fractional ownership of, say, Apple, right? So you buy Apple currently in the $130 per share. That gets you a small, tiny fraction ownership of Apple. We ask, what's the purpose? You can start in a mutual fund type of investment for $25. So very low. But again, whether it's GameStop or Apple or Tesla, what is the purpose of the money? When will you need the money? And how much risk are you willing to take? Just some of the key questions we ask. So the different classes of share allow you to, for example, have voting rights or non-voting rights, dividends or no dividends, preferred shares versus common stock. Preferred shares would be give you a bit more potentially dividends or voting or preferential treatment. So financial diversification is where your money's going in terms of the big idea: cash, conservative, risk-off assets, growth or risk-on assets. Within those buckets that we talk about, those 3 buckets, there's different kinds of investments. In the growth bucket, very, very commonly you'll have stock in a company, ownership in a company. In the risk-off or conservative bucket, you'll have maybe bonds or certificates of deposits, things that aren't that risky. And then you'll have in the third bucket cash for emergencies, for planned expenses. Inflation affects every one of those buckets. Typically think of inflation as the price of something increasing over time, right? And that's just what happens is the price of eggs and gas and meals out all are increasing, either generally because the cost of providing those services is going up. Just start now. It doesn't matter where you're at. It just matters that you get started. I like to say we can give so many great ideas and so many great strategies and planning. The one thing we can never give any person is time. And time is always on your side. No matter if you're early or mid or late in the stage of where you're at, start now.